Have you ever felt that whisper in your soul calling you to something more, but all the things spinning around in your mind have kept you stuck? Well, what if I told you that choosing excellence could be both easier and more adventurous than you could ever imagine? I am Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, your host of All Things Excellence. I'm a soul catalyst for excellence who leapt off that corporate cliff and left small town Iowa farm life in my 20s to follow my calling, helping women come home to themselves by anchoring into who they're designed to be. I create sacred containers where women rediscover their truth, design their dream life, and transform those whispers into action. Now you can find me running my business from the soccer sidelines as a coach's wife, hiking my favorite Arizona mountain, or back in Iowa with my family, or on an adventure chasing my next sunrise, hot cup of coffee and journal in hand. Through intimate conversations about the stories, the traumas, and the transformations behind choosing excellence, we're creating a collective healing journey together. I believe in diving deep into personality designs, experimenting boldly, and learning life's greatest lessons through our beautiful chaos. Every week, my guests and I are going to rip down the curtains so you can see behind the scenes of real transformation as we explore what excellence actually looks like. Not just the highlight reel, but that messy middle where the magic happens. Whether you're seeking inspiration to take that leap or already on your journey and craving connection, this is your invitation to join us. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to discover just how close you are to the life your soul is calling you to create. This is All Things Excellence. Hey, All Things Excellence fam, welcome back to part 2 of the books that shaped me. So again, if you didn't get the chance to listen to the last episode, you did not hear about how I am a wildly voracious reader, and it has been a longtime party trick of mine that people will reach out to me and ask me what book they need to be reading for this particular season that they're in or a circumstance that they're going through. I've read hundreds and hundreds of books, and I would say a lot of it is, as an Enneagram 8, when an Enneagram 8 is in stress, they go to reflect a little bit of the 5, which is it's known as a resource manager. But when I think about it for myself, I tend to go there and I go into more of a research mode. And yeah, I'm assessing my resources, but I'm really in this like research mode where I'm seeking to find information that will help me be able to get where I want to go. And because of that, because I've always been a huge, driven, wildly competitive with myself person, this has caused me to read a lot of books, a lot of self-help books on every single topic from, leadership to emotional management, time management, habit management, all of those different things. And so I have been sharing with y'all pretty much the top 10 books, pretty much there's 10. We're going to just with last week, we'll lump all of Dr. John and Dr. Henry's books together. That was a 24-month marathon where I was a part of their leadership program that honestly caused me to read every single book they had. And I think all the books individually can stand alone, but then when you group them together, there's such a common theme that runs through them just on being able to, I don't know, I think if you lumped all their books together, it made me a more compassionate, reflective, take a beat, take a breath, understanding human. So I would do that John Townsend's program over again, but I would also read all their books all over again. So if I could only read a few, I would, again, going back to last week, I would absolutely read Boundaries, learn what boundaries actually are. Boundaries are not like these walls that you put up with people. That's not what that means. Second, I would definitely read Safe People. I think Safe People gives you that permission to allow the right people into your life that are good for you. And it's not like you're bad or I'm bad. It's like we're not a good fit or we are a really, really good fit. So Safe People. Necessary Endings, again, giving us just that permission and that peace for when seasons and friendships end and why they need to end, why we all need to move on. And I feel like there was another one in my head, but then I would also, again, I love the book People Fuel. It's more the concept of it, the concept of their book People Fuel. And the reason for it is because it was that thing that helped me understand the different needs of people. I think that if I could only read one book as a coach out of that collection that I talked about last week, it would it would be People Fuel, because that is the book that taught me that there are grace-based needs and truth-based needs. And we need to ask people. We need to ask people in our life, and we need to ask our clients if we're a coach, are you needing advice and feedback today, or are you needing me to just sit with you in the well and the yuck today? And understanding that for the people that we do life with, right? Our clients or our coworkers, our spouses. Kobe also went through that program with me as my spouse. He was a little bit required to go on part of that journey with me. We even had marriage weekends associated to it where we would both fly in. We would spend 2 days together. But also um it helped me with all of them, but it also helped me with myself, right? Because it is no one else's responsibility to ask me for what I need. It is my responsibility to be able to speak that need and to be able to ask for what that is. There's a need called containment, which is just venting and losing it, but productively, right? And I do require that need a lot, but so does Kobe. We have daily containment walks. Okay, we'll go like, oh my gosh, I just need a containment walk, and we will contain our venting session to that walk. So that's how we've applied that in our life, and I feel like it provides so much more peace in our home because we have created a very sacred container and a specific container for us to both be able to lose it, whether it's about our day or we're, just needing to talk through something with each other. And that book, People Fuel, was really the book that helped both of us understand how to speak up and say what we need and explode the communication that we had in our marriage. Which from day one, when we decided to get together as a couple after being friends for 5 years, we both decided from day one that the number one thing that was always going to be the most important core value in our marriage was going to be communication, because we felt like if we could communicate well, everything else would always work itself out. And here we are 15 years later. And I can say that that was such a God thing, that we knew at 25 years old that was going to be a huge key in our relationship. So very grateful that both of us knew that. So that's kind of like a little summary also to tag on back to last week and just add on to that. But so jumping into the 5 final books that have shaped me, part 2, um, welcoming all back. I want y'all to know, so just so you guys know, if you did not listen to last week, I don't just talk about these books. It's really a journey that I bring you along on. And so where we left off last week was definitely in that 2017, 2018 era when I was in that program that I just talked about and reading all those books through the program and working through it with multiple coaches and a therapist and a cohort of 8 of us. Diligently for 2 years, we lived, eat, sleep, breathed these concepts, so they could become part of us and who we are. And so when I left that, when that ended and I wrapped a bow on that season, I was living in Dallas, but I was flying to Phoenix every month. And the wildness of that is I wrapped a bow on that December 2018. And then when we went back, I also left my car there. I literally physically left my car in Arizona when that season ended. So that way I knew that I knew I was coming back. Like we knew that I was going to come back and that we were both going to be moving. And so we ended that season in December 2018. But then in January, I pretty much came to stay and have been here ever since. And we moved all of our belongings on the 8th of February. We closed up our apartment in Dallas on February 7th and moved on the 8th of February to start our new life here in Arizona. And the thing to note about that huge season of transition was I've always felt like when we moved from Iowa to Dallas, I always felt like we were really moving away from Iowa just to some place that was different to help us have a different view of life, help us have a different perspective. But very much when we left Dallas to move to Phoenix, we were not running away from Dallas, where I felt like, we were running/moving away from Iowa. We were very much choosing to move to Arizona. I'd felt drawn to it since I first came. I'd been here before. I have family here. And things had caused me to come to the state. But I really intentionally started coming here for some work things back in the fall of 2014. And I fell in love with it instantly. And constantly, I would tell Kobe how I wanted to leave Dallas and I wanted to move here. I think I just, in my soul, it felt more calm. All my life, I had been drawn to wanting to move to the West Coast. It had just been a dream of mine. I didn't even go there until I was like 16 or 17 years old. It's the first time that I went to the West Coast in California. And it was everything that I thought it was. But I just always knew, like my soul was just always drawn there. I think God just planted that seed in me. And I teased my mom. I was like, it's because you watch soap operas. There must have been a soap opera that took place in California that had me fully convinced that, the West Coast was where I wanted to move. And so, then I got old enough to realize, but there's a lot of there's just a lot of things in life that caused me to go, this is good. I am as far west as I will ever go. Arizona is perfect, but my friends from college who are in California, this is close enough to them. But I would live next door to them, but this is as close as I'm going to get because of all the details that go into being an adult, right? And so when we moved here, it was on that season, but it was in a really ridiculously deep season of loss, and a really tough season of pruning. I was still, I was a year into grieving a friendship that I lost overnight. I mean, I still don't really know. I'm not kidding. I still have no clue what happened, and it would pain me for years and years and years. And it would cause me to have a spiral in my job for years, just because I didn't understand it. I didn't know. When I say literally mid text message, this friendship ended and I didn't even know. And I just had to kind of figure it out for myself when somebody stops responding to you, somebody that you were doing daily life with. And I can say, like, all I can say is, like, I was in the middle of like the greatest growth program ever. And I do believe I've said this before, and people in my life said this, God removed from cart the person that you should have removed and that you wouldn't. But I don't always do that well when God forces my hand. I tend to drag my feet and be a little sad for quite some time when he's forcing my hand on a life change that I should do. So I was very much in that. I was in that season of sadness, of feeling that loss. I wanted to move to Arizona, but it still carried a lot of heaviness with it, leaving Dallas and having that still open wound, I guess you'd want to say. So the first book that I read, here's the books for y'all. If y'all are watching on YouTube, you can see this, but these are the 5 books I want to talk about today. The very first book that I read when I landed here in Arizona was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And remember, if y'all didn't know this from the last episode, I always write at the very front of the book when I get the book and when I actually start reading the book. And I even labeled it first read in Arizona. Like, I remember it. I remember where I was sitting. I remember getting here, and I remember being in our home and opening the book up and deciding this was the first book that I was going to read while I was here. And I want y'all to know that this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, this is not a one-time listen. This is a book you need the physical book. You need the Audible so you can be listening to the audio again and again. I consider this to be the best comprehensive habit guide that's out here, because this is not these are the habits that you need to set up and create to be a successful human, but it's more of a how-to guide on being successful with the habits that you actually want to set up and create, which is, I think, what we really want, right? Like, nobody wants to be told what to do. Nobody wants to be told what to be fixed. Nobody wants to be told, like, you need to wake up at 5 and this is how you need to live your life. We just want to be given some tips on how to be wildly successful with the habits that we actually want to integrate into our life. And that's what this entire book is about. And again, guys, it is not a one-time read. It is a constant redo, constant check-in. And it also helps you with breaking beliefs that cause you to keep bad habits. So to summarize this book, goodness sakes, I have so many things in this book. Like, even for myself, I have it where the back cover, right? Like the paper cover that's on the book is tucked in where it talks about his yearly integrity report, where he asks himself 3 questions. What are the core values that drive my life and work? Number 2, how am I living and working with integrity right now? Number 3, how can I set a higher standard in the future? So not only are there so many tips and habits all throughout the book that are going to help you be successful in the habits you want to create, but also really great reflection questions within that. So you guys, in this season as well, when I read this book, I was really getting into doing book reviews because again, my party trick was everybody reaching out for me. So I started creating this YouTube channel where people could just go there and flip through them and listen to them, whatever. This was before like stories and reels, because now it would just be really super easy for me to do that on there. So I'm going to read y'all what I wrote about this book. This book does so much more than tell you the basics and the framework of habits. He continually gives very broken down examples that are easy to transfer with every concept. The best part, the concepts are short and concise. The chapters are short and concise, so you can form the habit of reading and take on the identity, I am a reader. There's this phrase that says, readers are leaders. No, leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers, right? Not only does he tell you how to create new great habits, but he has multiple examples of how you can stop bad habits and create habits that actually work. It's effective mindset on saving for something big like a trip to Europe, a $5 latte at a time. Let's see. Oh, so I apparently, just to get this book read, I started with one short, simple chapter a day, then moved on to 2, and then I moved on to an entire section a day. And just so you guys know, how the book, I think that he even, I'm like, he is like, if Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend are the fathers of boundaries, I think that James Clear is the father of really, really great habits. And so in this book, he has it broken out into 4 laws, but also he has it broken into 7 sections. And then within that, there's tiny itty bitty little chapters that range about 10, I would say 7 to 10 pages. Every chapter is only 7 to 10 pages within those pillars, right? So there's about 7 different pillars in the book, and then you've got all these itty bitty tiny little things like within the laws, and it makes the book so easy to absorb. So at the very front of the book, I wrote a quote that he had shared on page 233. At some point, it comes down to who can handle the boredom of the everyday it takes to be wildly successful. At some point, it comes down to who can handle the burden of the everyday it takes to be wildly successful. And so that's his whole point. His whole point is the key to being wildly successful at life is knowing how to set up yourself for success and creating these habits that help you live in that, and live in that, I guess, kind of boring, mundane, but not feel like the boring and the mundane. So definitely the first book that I'm going to recommend to y'all. Next up, number 2, this book, y'all know I got so emotional last week going through these books and re-experiencing them through the lens of where I was when I read them. And I think just grabbing this next book, it makes me so emotional. So I talked already right here about, when I moved to Phoenix and just where I was and how I was really honestly so brokenhearted in this friendship that I know should have ended. I know it, but like I just wasn't ready for it. And so God definitely ended it for me. And so book number 2 that shaped me, it healed me, and I didn't even choose it. It was a part of a group book study with a guide. So there's the book, and then there's a guide, and there's the videos that go along with it. And because of a group that I was a part of, this book was part of it. So if you want to be a part of the group, then you got to read this book, and you got to do the guide, and which a guide causes you to experience a book. And this book is called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way by Lisa TerKeurst. She is one of my favorite authors, and she is a Christian author, but I think even if you are not a Christian, I think you can gain so much from reading her books because she is a girl out of my own heart. I say a girl, her kids are probably my age. She is a woman out of my own heart and a very trial and error kind of gal. And she she leads and influences the world by sharing her experience and sharing her journey, which is probably why I resonate so much with her. For all you human design people out there, she is a 3/6 with her profile, just like me. So if that makes sense to you, then that makes sense. Then, there you go. And that's obviously why I know that now. I did not know that then, but that is a big part of why I resonate so deeply with her. So, this book, when I look at this book, I always remember this moment where I was standing in the kitchen and Kobe came home and I was cooking. And I turned and I looked at him and I said, "Oh my gosh, you would not believe what God asked me to do today." And he turned around and looked at me. He's not a wildly spiritual person, so he looked at me like, "Okay, what did God ask you to do today?" And I said, "God asked me to pray for," we'll just call her Ashley, right? The friendship that broke my heart, we'll call her Ashley. "God asked me to pray for Ashley today in my quiet time." Because if you don't know this yet, every morning I sit out on our patio. I've done this for a long time, over a decade, and I just have a good little quiet time and I meditate and I read a devotion and I read a chapter of a book and I journal like crazy and I write out all my gratitude for the day. And I just really sit and feel and meditate, or like, what do I feel like I'm supposed to do today? How do I feel like I'm supposed to live my best life today? How do I feel like I'm supposed to help the world today? And that day I just felt, through reading this book, that I was supposed to pray for her. And I remember that part, but I didn't remember until I really went back and re-experienced this book, that I'd marked with those little sticky things. And it said in the book, after Job had prayed for his friends, the ones who misjudged him and didn't tell the truth and added so much hurt on top of the pain he already had, the Lord restored his fortune and gave him twice as much as he had before. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than he had blessed the former part. If you don't know, little synopsis story in the Bible, there's a guy named Job, and he was like the richest dude in the land. He lost all the things. His friends all criticized him for it. And he lost everything: kids, wife, all of his donkey and cows and such, and land. And then he, really humbled himself. And then he was given all the things back, but times 10. And so there's a whole story about it in the Bible. If you're interested, if you don't know, you can look it up. You could probably chat GPT it for the summary. But I read that, and and it, for some reason, really ignited this thing inside of me that I needed to start praying for this person who had greatly hurt me. Because what we know is that hurting people hurt people, and that her inability to come and have a really good conversation with me about what was hurting her, that was causing her to just, run away from our conversation, and instead of talking to me, just make a really crazy, rude, mean, hurtful blanket post on social media that was obviously about me. If you knew our friendship, you knew that she was talking about me. Like, wow, okay, I just got punched in the I guess not in the face, in the back of my head, because I didn't see it coming and she was gone by the time I turned around. And so I said, there's no way I'm praying for her. There's just no way. I'm not praying for her. And in that moment, Kobe said, of all the people in the world that need your prayers, she is the one that needs them the most. And I said, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you don't even like her. You hate her. Like, you've hated her since day one. Since day one, you've hated who she was as a person. You thought she has bad character. You couldn't stand her. I mean, I had to beg you not to celebrate and throw a dang party the day that we stopped being friends. And you're telling me right now that you want me to pray for her? And he was like, absolutely. Of all the people in the world, you absolutely need to pray for her. So I said to him, the one thing that I know about her is this. I know, this was a year and a half later. I said, I know she doesn't have any kids yet. And I know it is the deepest desire of her heart for a long time that she would have kids, that she could be a mom. So I'll pray for that. I'll pray for that one thing. I will pray diligently every single day that God gives her the opportunity to be a mom. I can do that. Like, I can pray for that one thing. And he said, okay, as long as you pray for that. And what I will tell you all, it was so humbling to have to do that, right? Like, pray for someone that hurt you so deeply. And publicly. It was very public and it was very deep. And it had a huge impact on my career. And then that was in October. And by January, my mom and I were on the other side of the country at a conference, and we were in a hotel ordering coffee. And her and I turned around and I said, "You've got to be shitting me." And my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, what? Why are we swearing in public again?" And I was like, "You got to be shitting me. She's pregnant." And my mom was like, "What?" And I was like, "Look." And I'm, y'all, like 100 yards away in a ginormous hotel connected to a huge convention center. I could see her from very far away, and she was very obviously, then I learned she was about like three months pregnant or something like that. Um, but I could tell that she was pregnant, and I was like, "You gotta be shitting me! Like, here we are. She's obviously pregnant." And my mom was like, "Okay, well, what does that matter?" And I said, "Well, back at the end of September, first week of October, God called me to really start praying for her, and that was really hard for me because you know how much that situation hurt." And my mom was like, "And you did?" I go, "Yeah, Kobe told me of all the people in the world I need to pray for, she needed my prayers the most." And my mom was like, "Well, I'm just really proud of you, first of all, because that was humbling." Um, and so I don't know, y'all. It was neat to see. This book, it healed me. And I needed healed because here's what I can tell you about Enneagram 8s for sure. We do not walk around sad, we walk around mad. And so a hurt Enneagram 8 serves absolutely nobody. So my notes that I took while reading this book was, I want to tell you what this book is not. It is not about her husband's affair. Her husband had had an affair and they'd been going through a divorce. It is a book for someone going through a hard time. I want to tell you what this book is not. It is not a book about her husband's affair or divorce. It is a book for someone who's going through a really hard time. It is a book for someone who has a relationship with God that they want to cultivate deeper. It is a book for anyone at any time in their life who has been faced with uncertainty and daunting realities while not being alone, but still being consumed with loneliness. And if any of those things have ever been you, then this book is for you. I'm going to read you one little tiny piece from it, and it says, I like the word compassion. It's being aware that all of us fear the imperfections deeply carved into our naked selves, and we all tend to cover up. And then we get all stripped bare when the wins become losses. But the compassionate soul who has been hurt deeply and came out loving, yes, she is one of the superstars of God's grand story, and she's the one that you want near you in the battles of life. She wears well the scars of suffering and can't wait to tell you her survival story, so you can survive too. The only way to gain more of this compassion is to pick up a paintbrush for yourself and sit in the seat of your own suffering. And so while this book came to me in the most painful adult season of my life, because this friend was somebody who, while I was going through a really tough time with some other things, she was just there for me, and she was so understanding, and she was that safe person. I felt like she was this. I thought she was a safe person, and a person that I could just be myself with, and then I learned that wasn't true. But in the moment, I felt that, and I had a hard time moving through, how did I miss that? Like, how did I miss that this person that I thought was good and that was safe and that was there for me actually wasn't safe and wasn't there for me? But this book helped me heal from the pain that I experienced from her, and also just helped me to heal and to be able to move on and to start creating really good, new, safe friendships. So Book number 3, Overcoming Underearning by Barbara Stanny. Overcoming Underearning by Barbara Stanny. And if you have listened to anything ever from me, you have heard about this book, because this book is all about, it says like overcome your money fears, earn what you deserve, a 5-step plan to a richer life. But like, let me tell y'all, like, that is just not what it's about, because anybody, absolutely anybody, can be an under earner. And I think here's this page that I love bringing up. And this is a book, you cannot have this book on Audible. I mean, I guess you can, but let me tell you what, if you are look, if y'all are watching the YouTube, you can see as I'm flipping through this that it is a book, but really it's a guide. It's really a guide to pinpointing the places where you are under earning. And sometimes we're under earning not because we have like money issues, maybe we have worthiness issues, or we have hurts, we have hangups, or we just have my personal thing, my personal under earning sabotage of choice is helping my friends at a fraction of my value or for free simply because I love them or I love their cause. And when I open this up, there's a page 38, whatever the heck it talks about, whatever the questions were. It says my inner under earner, the why behind it, it's what you do. And that's what my parents have said. Like, it's just what you do. And one thing I'll tell you about me is my belief. If you do Clifton Strengths Finders, the 34 strengths, the core value, the strength belief, belief is like, these are my core values and it is who I am. And I stand firm on who I am. It is, that is really high for me. It's in my top 5. And so when my parents raised me to be like, we always help people because it's what you do, I took that as a badge of honor. And in this book, there's this quote that everyone has heard me saying, that helping others at the detriment to yourself is anything but noble. Helping others at the detriment to yourself is anything but noble. The whole like, I know this is the only shirt I've got, but girl, you don't have a shirt on. And so I'm going to give you this shirt because I know that I won't have a shirt, but at least you'll have a shirt, right? And I was very much raised in the environment of this is what you do. And both of my parents would sit here beside me today and say they were raised that exact same way. And I would say, now, did it serve you? And they would both say, no, it did not. And so they definitely, as the oldest child, do my brothers have that kind of like helping other people at the detriment to themselves? Do they carry that same burden that I do? Absolutely not. I mean, I think my middle brother carries it a little bit. Baby brother doesn't carry it at all. It was very much a certain age and a time period that my parents were a thing that they were going through, that shifted by the time my baby brother, who is 8 years younger than me, came along. But it said, so the workbook said to say, what is your inner unearner? And again, mine is, it's what you do. It's the programming from my parents. The purpose, what is the purpose behind this? I wrote no effing clue. The gift, you get to be known as generous, giving, kind, dependable, selfless, and let us not forget, humble. Okay. What have I gotten from having this? Praise, respect, but I've also been used. And so again, you guys, my my red flag is that I always help friends at a fraction of my value or for free because I love them and I love their cause. And so this book it's just never ending for me. I'm always working on it. I'm always coming back around to it. And if you're the person, if you're like, oh, I don't have an issue with under earning, I want to read this one tiny little snippet to you. Once during a workshop break, an adorable 35-year-old ponytailed Filipino woman came up and tapped me on the shoulder. Her name was Odette. She looked genuinely confused. I'm not sure I'm an under earner, she said. I own a bakery and it's really profitable. I said to her, well, what's the problem? She goes, I hardly pay myself anything. I know how I was taught. You have to put everything back into the business so you can weather any storms. And I said to her, you are definitely an under earner. So you can have a business that's wildly profitable, but if you are hanging your hat on, well, I don't pay myself anything. I hardly pay myself anything. Figuring out what is the reason behind that. There is a book called Profit First, and one of my mentors in life, she says that it's, if you're going to be in business, it's a book that you need to read. She's even had conversations with the author. You're going to get into the book. It's going to talk about the multiple bank accounts to open up to pay yourself well, and pay yourself first in this book called Profit First. And I think the book Profit First, I think you have to get really good with this book first before you can read that book, because you have to be able to work through that identity and those things that cause you to flip up with things like this of where I'm not sure I'm an under earner. Well, what's the problem? I hardly pay myself anything. I put everything back into the business. Okay, well, that also right there makes you an under earner. And so I think, so all earners without question share one common trait, a high tolerance for low pay. So, what does it mean to be an under earner? To start with, it has little to do with the amount of money you make and everything to do with your attitude. So I don't know, y'all, if you're a woman and you make money, read the book. Okay. I'm just saying, I've had so many friends who are wildly successful read it, and I think it is your ultimate increase your worth or income earning guide, in my personal opinion. Okay, book number 4. This book, it's so funny. Like I didn't even think about the title, but as when I thought about the book itself, who it was written by a dear, wonderful friend and mentor, and it was written by a dear, wonderful friend and mentor. I've known her for a really long time, but I can tell y'all, even if I didn't know her, I would recommend this book. It would still be one of my top 10 books. It is not a top 10 book because I know this person. We have had done a podcast episode with her, so you can go back and you can find that episode with her. It is because this book changed the game for me. This book, I will look back 20 years from now and I will remember the day that I sat on my patio and I read this book in a day, which y'all, I don't read, I've only read a couple books in a day, and this was one of them. And this book took all the breath from my lungs by the time I got to page 4. And it was because on page 4, she talked about when they were sitting in the room with their financial advisor, her and her husband. She said, "You're not making enough money." And Amy said, "I felt like all the air left the room." The book is called I See You by Amy Kemp. She said, "After all of my business expenses and taxes, there wasn't enough money left to achieve our goals." She talks about her husband and his job. She goes, "While his job provided great insurance and retirement benefits, the only way he could get a pay raise was to get older. And even then, the annual increase was relatively small. In addition, his packed schedule would not allow him to take on any more work." Now, if you have listened to anything about Kobe and I's life, Kobe is right there. Both of our husbands are in education. They're actually almost in the same job. They're in the exact same part in the athletic department of their jobs. And she goes, "This test continued to talk, her financial advisor. I quickly scanned her office, desperately searching for anyone in the room who could rescue me from the weight of the responsibility that had just descended on my shoulders. This was my problem to solve, really? It didn't take long to confirm that I was, in fact, the only one left in the room who could take this problem. I was the one whose income was variable. I was the one who had the most opportunity to earn more. I was the one whose schedule could change without permission from anyone else. And even though the weight of providing for our family felt heavy in the moment, I knew right then that something had to change. And actually, to be more precise, someone had to change. And that someone was me." So if you're a woman and you're alive and you do have breath in your lungs, I feel like you need to read this book. It gives you intense permission to delegate unpaid labor. And I mean, whether you work or you work in your home or you work from home or you work for your home, all y'all women know what I mean with that. This gives you immense permission to delegate unpaid labor. And it is jam-packed full of reflection questions. Like, yes, of course you can order the Audible, but there are so many questions in here that you need to get the book, dog-ear the book, make notes to the book, love the book, mark all over it. Y'all know I have 7 rules. I have 7 rules for reading. If you missed them on the last one, it's that you don't need to finish a book. You need to make it your journal. Do not let people borrow your book, because then you're going to be fearful about what you're writing in it. Make sure you write the page numbers and top takeaways at the front of the book, date it, the day that you ordered it and that you read it, and the dates that you reread it. Number 6, you're allowed to have the physical and the audio. And remember, number 7, books can collect us for a decade and then it can call out to you. But rule number 2, make it your journal, dog ear it. And you can't do that if you don't have it. Now, if you're this person who's like, I'm not even going to get the book read if I don't get the Audible, okay, get the Audible, but I just want to encourage you to get this as well. So you can get the real book as well. So you can take those moments and you can journal in the back. I mean, I will tell you, this woman right here that wrote this book, Amy, is the one who had me and basically demanded. She was like, "You need to read, if you read this book, read the book Overcoming Underearning, and then I'll talk to you." It was pretty much one of those things. So, personally for me, the reason that shifted, it was huge, was because in the fall of 2023, Kobe had just went into working his job at the school full time. So when it was COVID, he stopped working for a while and he started going back to school, and he was going full time. And then I had a really great friend and customer who said, "Hey, I've got this opportunity for him. He's not done with school yet." And I'm like, "No." She's like, "We got a brand new school starting up and he could work part time in the athletic department as the athletics manager." and he'd basically be responsible for like managing all the equipment and organizing the entire room. Well, Kobe is an Enneagram 9 wing 1. I mean, you want him to create a peaceful, organized environment, like that's his job, and he gets to work in this ginormous room at this brand new beautiful school, and he gets to create the systems. Like, absolutely, like this is his calling. And so he started doing that. Again, it's for education in Arizona, so it's for nothing dollars, pretty much, just above nothing dollars. And so he's doing this and he's going to school, and then they gave him the opportunity to go full time, which also means it's taking him 87,000 years. I mean, literally like over 6 years to actually finish school, but that's okay. He went back and started all the way from less than the beginning because he'd been out of college for a really long time. So he had to take some courses to get into some courses. And so at this moment, y'all, he has just started full time with this job. He hasn't worked full time in several years at this point, and just been going to school. And my careers have been supporting us at this point, which is wonderful. And I'm walking behind him, and it's a Friday night, and it's a football game, and it's already dark, and the lights are on, and the crowd is everywhere. And I'm trailing behind him about 5 to 10 feet. And as we're walking and weaving through the crowd to be able to go to the gate to walk, onto the track and out onto the field before the game starts, everyone's just yelling his name, high-fiving him left and right. And he's glowing. Y'all, I mean it. He was literally glowing. And in that moment, I couldn't have been more excited for him, because that was the only prayer that I had ever had, is that God would guide him to a career that he was designed for, that he was just designed and created to give his gifts to the world. And my gosh, if he is not designed and created to be in this position. And so I knew it. I knew in that moment he was just glowing, that this was everything that his life was created for, to be in this position. And the way he gets to be there for the kids, it's just perfect. But as excited and happy as I was for him, I was really sad for myself, because in that time, I wasn't feeling that. I wasn't feeling that joy and that excitement, and that I was in the right place and in the right zone, right? That I was really working out of my genius, that I was exactly where God wanted me to be, doing what God wanted me to do. But the third thing was, then I kind of went into a panic attack. I mean, I couldn't breathe. And I don't think I took a breath for like 5 months until I read this book. Because in that moment, I also realized, oh shit, this is absolutely all on me. Like, if this is his job, and then God has hand selected him to be in this part of education for his calling in his life, dear God, help me, because he is never gonna make money that could even pay a mortgage, which means it's all on me. So when I opened up this book and I read that, knowing Amy, knowing her husband Ryan, knowing their positions and what they do, and just knowing who she is and who he is, their character as people, I felt for the first moment in a really long time that someone understood me and validated me and held me in that well of absolute holy shit, this is all on me. This is all on me. And so that, I have a special love for that book. But I still think that every single person should read it. I've got notes like crazy in the book where it's really a workbook for women on living a greater, more excellent life, which y'all know I love. Okay, book number 5, and I don't have a ton to say about this book, y'all. And the reason is because I've been reading it for a while. I first started reading it. Okay, so at the time of recording this, it is the middle of April, and I first started reading this on the plane flying my friend Angela's wedding back in December. And I'm not that far into it, okay? Like I'm maybe a third of the way through this book, but I can tell y'all the reason is because the chapters are so meaty. And when I read a book, like I just don't speed read through a book and like get the information and kind of like take a few snippets. I become the book. I devour it. I absorb it. I start living it out in my life, one little piece at a time. And so this book is called 10 Times is Easier Than 2 Times by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. 10 Times is Easier Than 2 Times by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And this book literally, so the premise is literally that, guys. It's like, look at your business or look at your job and create a goal, right? So oftentimes, so let's say, okay, I have a goal to, double my revenue this year. Let's say last year your revenue was 100,000, and so now you want to double it to 200,000. His philosophy is that it's actually easier to 10 times your goal and have the goal to do 1 million this year as opposed to doing 200,000. And the reason for that is because when you choose to 10 times your goal as opposed to 2 times your goal, you limit the amount of routes to get there, making what you start doing on a day-to-day basis so much simpler and so much easier. The book is overflowing with stories from men and women from all of these different industries who have done that exact same thing and how they've done it. And I've just found that there are so many tiny little principles in this book that are applicable to you no matter what you do. So, um, a couple quotes out of here, how this book will change your life. He talks about the story about how they were operating out of need and not want, scarcity, not abundance, security, not freedom. So this book comes alongside you and helps you realize the places that you are working out of scarcity and security and need, and helps you move into that place of working out of want, abundance, and freedom. To go for easy and simple, you'll have to let go of everything in your life that is needlessly hard. More specifically, you will have to let go of everything you don't truly want. And so this book has been helping me uh, clean house on all of the random crap that I am doing that is absolutely not getting me to the life that I want to live, that life of my dreams, that when I'm falling asleep at night, when I'm waking up in the morning, when I'm sitting at a red light in traffic and I'm thinking about it because it's all that I want and it's the reason that I do every single thing that I do. This book helps me to keep clearing out the junk, to keep pruning out the things in life that are keeping me from living that best life. The one other part in the book that I wanted to read y'all was so it says, to go 10 times, you simplify your focus by continually letting go of everything that does not meet your 10 times filter. Continually freeing yourself from the 80% enables you to focus on your highest form of contribution. Anytime someone wants you to remain as you are, they do so for their own self-preservation. Because when you make that goal, when you make that decision, when you start making the actions that you're going to 10 times your goal and not 2 times your goal, you're going to have people come along with a lot of opinions. You're going to have to offboard, right? We onboard a lot of people into our life, but you're going to have to offboard a lot of tasks, offboard a lot of people. And it might be clients, it might be friends, it might be different things in your life, maybe places that you're volunteering that you're not going to be able to volunteer anymore. I look at the stuff that I've been able to help Kobe do in the school these last several years, and I knew that when I made that decision to step into launching this podcast, that I would not be able to be the ultimate volunteer that I had been for the past 2 years. I knew that I would need to stop signing up for all of the things like helping at the volleyball scoreboard, helping at the baseball scoreboard, showing up in the middle of the day to be a part of a pep rally. I just can't do those things anymore if I'm going to commit to 10 timesing on this goal that we want for our life. Most people are afraid to shed old standards and strategies, especially ones that worked. But you need to exhibit a quality that only the world's top achievers do, the ability to rapidly accept a new identity. And he's talking about this, he's telling the story about this guy, Chad. He let go of being the guy who made hundreds of cold calls a day. He let go of being the first in the office and the last to leave. He let go of being one of the top dogs at one of the biggest financial firms in the world. He let go of needing to always be available and look fancy in a suit. He let go of being the guy who answered his own emails, attending client meetings, or even had his own office. He let go of seeing busyness as a status symbol. And he let go of trying to please anyone that wasn't in his top 20%. So this book to me is like, if you are in life and you're experiencing some success already, but you are ready to absolutely level up your success and really go for that dream life that is so big, it makes you puke, you can barely grab a hold of it, you have to read this book. Let's see. And could you do the real book or the Audible? I think you could do either one. Yeah. You could absolutely do either one. There's a lot of questions through it, but obviously you can absorb them. I think either one, or, y'all know I'm always a fan of both. I'm always a fan of both. So that book is for anyone that really has the ability or desire to explode their success in their business. It could be their own business, or you could work for somebody. You can be an entrepreneur, or you can be an employee. I don't think it really matters with that book. So again, y'all, top 5 books to finish this up. So these are basically the top 5 books that have shaped me really since moving here to Arizona in the last 6 years. Atomic Habits, It's Not Supposed to Be This Way, Overcoming Underearning, I See You, and 10 Times is Easier Than 2 Times. I feel like we can all establish through my journey through these books that, I went through the valley of the shadow of death where I absolutely feared all of the evil and have come out, and it is so fun and so exciting. I'm so grateful that I went through extremely turbulent times, extremely painful times, because I can look back on all of that and I can see where I developed next level compassion, next level humility. And I do think that while it was not fun and it absolutely beat the shit out of me, I'm really grateful because it is what prepared me to be the greatest clarity coach that can sit in the shit of the well with people and be there with them to hold space for them while they lose their freaking minds, and then helping them re-find their joy, re-find their love for life, and create the systems and the structure to be able to go out and be able to do that. So again, it sucked, but I would do it all over again just to get to be where I am today and to be able to help the people that I help. So as y'all know, as always, if you're like, oh my gosh, girl, like I want you to help me find a book that's best for me in this season, book an intro clarity call. It's a 30-minute session, you and me. You can use it to hold space. You can use it to have me help you give a little bit of advice in life, business, relationships, strategy, structure, whatever you need. Or you can use it for something as simple as, what is the book that I need to be reading in this next season? I will be there, chelseadbc.com. As always, go there, grab that intro clarity session so that way we can have some special time together and I get to meet you. So thank you for joining. And just so y'all know, the next series we have coming up is a series on the Enneagram. We'll be kicking off next Friday with a series called Enneagram in Marriage. Kobe will be back here again, joining us, our favorite Enneagram 9 in the world. He's going to be joining us to talk about Enneagram in marriage. And then I will be leaping into a weekly series where I interview someone from each Enneagram type. So definitely stay tuned and get ready to go on a really fun journey where you get to learn a lot about yourself, but most importantly, you get to learn about the other people and the other Enneagram types in your life. Thank you again, All Things Excellence fam. We'll see you next time.